Hello everybody. Today I'm going to show you a very interesting story that was submitted to me by a YouTube viewer, Mr. Steve Freeman. Steve Freeman's father was an American soldier during World War II and he fought in the 59th Armored Infantry Battalion. Here you can see him in his uniform with a badge and here with one of his armored vehicles. And this is the email that his son sent me asking help with his research project. So you see, he says, I have a German watch which was in my father's personal effects. My father was wounded in France in April 1945, somewhere around the town of Mettmann. When I sent the watch to be cleaned, repaired a couple of years ago, the watch repairman said that there was a piece of paper in the watch and that the watch belonged to a German soldier, Obergefreiter Corporal Quirin Mayer, L25890, PA, Munster, Germany. So this sounds like something quite interesting. And just to locate where this is happening, this is the town of Mettmann. And you can see it's near Düsseldorf and Cologne. And this is where it is on a more general map. And of course, he wrote a typo in the email. He said it was in France, but actually this Mettmann is in Germany. So his father was wounded in Germany in April 1945 and brought back this German watch. And this is what the watch looks like. You can see the company is Titus and it was made in Geneva. I think this is a military issue watch if I'm not mistaken. And when the watch repairman wanted to clean it, he found this very interesting piece of paper inside. So the first thing I do when somebody asks about researching a German soldier is I look him up online on the databases of the German War Graves Commission, the Volksbund. The reason I do that is that only the German dead, only lists of German dead are currently online on this website. And for the people who survived the war, well, they're not online, so you have to do actual research. And I look up this Quirin Mayer and there are 0 responses. So that's lucky for him, he survived the war, but unlucky for the research because it means now we're actually going to have to go to real archives to try to research this man. So let's look at these inscriptions and try to understand them and see what can be done with them. We're going to start by the number, the L25890. So what is that? These 5 numbers for the German army during World War II were Feldpostnummer. So that just means a field postal number. And what it actually is in practice is just a coded version of a unit's name. So for example, this is a letter written by a German officer who was in Reserve Grenadier Battalion 164. And you can see on top of the letter, instead of putting the unit's name, he put this Feldpostnummer. So basically it's just a way of having coded, the unit's name coded so that not everybody, if the letter falls into enemy hands and stuff, not anybody can just find out immediately what units are in the area. So researching Feldpostnummers used to be complicated, but now it's very easy. Everything is online. So you just type it at Google and then you find out what unit it belongs to. So this one on the watch, 25890, belongs to 4th Battery of Flakscheinwerfer Abteilung 438. So that means 4th Battery of Anti-Aircraft Searchlight Detachment 438. So the guy who had this watch would have been in the German Air Force manning searchlights or doing something with the searchlights. And if you go back to the watch, you can see that before the Feldpostnummer there's an Al, and that Al is for Luftwaffe, so German Air Force. So all this matches, we see it's a German Air Force unit. Now, people often contact me assuming that because they know a German soldier's family name and his unit, which is the case here, he's just going to be able to be researched extremely easily. And that is actually very wrong. I'm going to explain to you why with another example. This is a German mess tin, and you see the guy who owned it carved his name and his Feldpostnummer into it. So it was Unteroffizier Beck. And people think, okay, so that's easy. Now we have the Feldpostnummer, so we'll just go to that unit, look up Beck and find out who he was. But that's not the way it works, because for the vast majority of German units, there are no rosters, no lists of personnel available. The way this works is you actually have to do the research starting with the name. So the way the German archives are arranged is that all the files are classified by family name, first name, and date of birth. So for this example of Beck, what you actually have to do, and I think everybody knows Beck is a common name, you'd have to look at the files of, let's say, the 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 guys who are called Beck, go through each file, and then look for which one of them was in the corresponding unit. And basically, the way this is now, with this data being in Berlin, you just cannot do that. You either would have to go to Berlin for several weeks or something, or at least several days, or pay a researcher, several days to look up this Beck. So now it's not really feasible unless you have a lot of money to spend. Maybe, and I hope, all this information will be put online in the next years, and then maybe you'll be able to solve these kinds of cases in 10 seconds, So let's go back to our watch. We have the unit, we have the family name, Mayer, which is one of the most common family names that exists in Germany, so basically it's not looking too good. But there's something special with this guy that saves the case. It's his first name. You see his first name is Quirin. And I've never heard that name before. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing it correctly. It's extremely unusual. And as you saw, there's not one single guy called Quirin Mayer who died during World War I or World War II. That proves, since there were no matches on the German War Graves website, so that proves this is a very rare name. So I told Steve that presumably there was only one or maybe 2 or 3 guys in the whole German army with this name, so probably thanks to the first name Quirin, it would be possible to find out exactly who this watch belonged to. So then Steve sent this very nice letter to the German archives. So it used to be called Deutsche Dienststelle back then. Nowadays it's called Bundesarchiv Abteilung PA. He explains the whole story and he says, please, do you have a file corresponding to the Quirin Mayer of Flakscheinwerfer Abteilung 438? And after a few months and the various normal procedures with the archives, Steve receives this reply from the Bundesarchiv, and it says the watch probably belonged to Quirin Mayer, born in 1914, in an unknown location, and his next of kin information listed in our documents is Anna Mayer, living in Heschingen. And here they don't actually send a copy of the file, but later on I got a copy of Quirin Mayer's file. And sure enough, the stuff matches what we want. You see it's Quirin Mayer. His unit is Flakscheinwerfer Abteilung 438, so a perfect match. His rank is Unteroffizier, so that's not the same as on the watch, but because he presumably was commissioned in the meantime. And very interesting, it says he was captured at Porz by Köln, so this is just an outskirt of Köln, on 12th of April 1945. So if we summarize the German information and the American information, this is what we have. We have the soldier, Freeman, wounded on April 17th, 1945 at Mettmann, and just a few kilometers away, and a few days before, Quirin Mayer was captured in Cologne on April 14th, 1945. So, as in all correct stories, the information cross-checks. And so these two guys, Freeman and Mayer, their paths must have crossed at some point during these days of April 1945. So now we have Quirin Mayer's next of kin address in Heschingen. So Steve Freeman wrote another very nice letter to Heschingen, again explaining the story and saying that he would like to give the watch back to descendants of Quirin Mayer. And we waited a while, but Heschingen never responded. But now, since I had quite a bit of information about Quirin Mayer, I actually simply Googled him. And I found this old article from the 1970s from the town of Bissingen, which is the town right beside Heschingen. And it mentions that Quirin Mayer was participating in the carnival and stuff. So I told Steve, I said, maybe you can try writing to Bissingen and see if they respond. And that's what worked. Bissingen did respond, and they said we found his daughters and stuff. One of them was still living in the town. And one of the daughters, so Steve sent the watch to be given back to the family. And one of the daughters sent a letter to Steve, which I'm going to read to you now. So it says, "Dear Mr. Freeman, you touched our hearts for looking after us. There must be a story about our father's watch. He told nothing about this hard time in his life. He was not the only one. Our father was in 1945 just 30 years old when he came back at home. No father, no mother, no wife, and at last no job. He started a new life, illness on his body and soul. He received a new chance with our mother, and they had 3 children. At last he received this change from your father, when God touched his heart? We'll never know it, but we know there is a piece of time not in vain. God bless you and your family. Life is the best teacher. Now in time of Corona, we all know that everyone needs help from the others. When our father died in 1988, after illness more than 4 years, he said goodbye to 3 children, 1 granddaughter and 2 grandsons. This offspring grew up with twins, boy and girl, and once more with a girl. Best wishes to you and your family. Be saved in the name of my sisters." So this was quite touching to read, and it's an example of a research case that ended very nicely. Of course, this is only a minority. Most cases don't have enough information to be solved, but you never know. You should always look at the information, and even if there's a small chance, you should try. And I'm very happy to have enabled this watch to be sent back to the family of a German soldier after 78 years. It brought peace to the American family, and it also brought some peace to the German family. So it, in a very small way, helped repair some of the damage of World War II. And if any of you guys need help for similar stuff, you can always feel free to contact me. And I wish you guys a nice day. Bye-bye.